Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marriage Matters. This is a show where we talk about marriage, relationships, and all things related. I'm Tanya Coleman. I'm here with my handsome, adorable, funny husband,
Glenn Coleman.
and we want to thank you guys for joining us for today's episode. How's it going, Glenn?
It is going really well.
Good.
So today is Mother's Day.
Yes.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much.
You're such a phenomenal mother.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you being a mother to my children.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you
is my
very
baby
much.
mama.
The only one.
Yep, the only baby mama I got.
Yes, sir.
So thank you. And to all mothers who are watching this, happy Mother's Day,
everybody.
We appreciate you, especially during this COVID time.
Absolutely.
We appreciate all the mothers. So
yes, doing all of the things. Homeschooling, working,
all that.
Cooking 2 or 3 meals a day sometimes. I understand.
Cooking a lot, huh?
Cooking a lot.
Yeah,
like I've been
amazing.
coming out with some things, all this home baking and just kind of homemade snacks and all kind of stuff. So, but that's what happens when you get in quarantine. You got to pull all the things out of your pocket, all your back pocket, out of your back pocket. Man, if I can talk. Okay, so today, partially in honor of celebrating mothers, I wanted to talk a little bit about celebrating one another. That's what we're talking about today. So in getting started, actually our show last week, we talked just about communication, which we talk a lot about communication, but it's so needed. That is one of the biggest areas of struggle in marriage and relationships altogether. And so we actually had someone comment and say, hey, we do a really great job at challenging one another and, pushing one another. The thing that we need to do more of is actually celebrating one another. And I thought that was so true. And it spoke volumes to me. And so just kind of thinking about that over the week and doing some reading, we decided that we were going to talk about that in today's show.
And let me, I'm going to say, keep your thought, but I want to say this. We love it when you guys comment and
yes,
because a lot of times that generates some areas for us to talk about even deeper, and it's like, oh man, yeah, we had one person we watched the show and she called me and she's like, I like what you were talking about, but in that show you mentioned this, I would like to hear more about that. So we did a whole show about that. So I mean, we love it. This, like we said, we want this to be a community where we can just grow and learn from each other. So
absolutely. So we're going to get started in today's topic. I'm going to put my laptop down. Again, we're talking about celebrating one another. So Glenn, I'm going to ask you the question. Are you ready? Why is celebrating your spouse so important?
Because it lets them know that they are wanted. It lets them know that they are appreciated. It's one thing to you always assume that people know that they are appreciated.
Sure.
But that's an assumption.
Sure, yeah.
And most people, they need that. That's part of how we are made. We need affirmation.
Yes.
We need approval. And so when you do that for your spouse, I think you're giving them those things. And even though, you could say, well, man, they know I appreciate, that's why I go to work every day. I get up and go to, I don't want to be on this job. I go to work every day.
Right.
And that may be, from the man's perspective. I go to work every day. I put food on the table. What you mean?
Right.
I don't appreciate.
I love you.
Well, the action is one part of it, but the other part of it is the verbalization of that. And not doing, there's a difference between like all those things. Perfect example. I've heard people say this before. You got guys that say, well, man, I take care of my kids, I ain't no deadbeat dad. So it's like, okay, you don't get rewarded for doing what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so going above and going. So in other words, going to work every day and putting food on the table.
Right. That's what you ought to be doing.
That's what you ought to be doing. So that may not be, when it comes to celebrating your spouse, that's not necessarily celebrating your spouse. That's just doing what you're supposed to do as a part of a relationship.
Right. Right. And I think it's important as we're looking at celebrating your spouse, one of the areas is simply taking notice, like paying attention, to your spouse. And when you notice that they've done something really well or they have accomplished a goal, celebrate that, point it out. If there have been times when I've come home and Glenn has cleaned the kitchen, that's already done, or he's cleaned the house. And, it's noticeable when I walk through the door, he got the kids, to jump in and clean up before I get home. That's noticeable, and I try to, and I can't say that I'm 100% successful all the time, but I try to take notice and say, thank you. I really appreciate that. I can be having a conversation with another group of women, and, we have those conversations and we talk about, the great things about our husbands. And I have one friend, her husband makes things, he builds things, he builds beautiful things, for their home, and so we always rejoice and celebrate that. She's always sharing, what he does. Someone else, their husband cooks really well. I'm like, well, Glenn doesn't cook, but he can clean. And he does the laundry very often, and they're just like, your husband does the laundry? Absolutely. And I celebrate that,
I find, I don't know what the word is, but I find relaxation in cleaning.
Bless your heart.
It makes me, when I see order, it just makes me feel good. And I can sleep good at night when I know the house is in order.
Glory to God. Amen. I married the right one. Yes. But, seriously, getting back to this, being able to identify those things about your spouse. I was doing some reading online and on this subject, and it talked about how you can actually sculpt, cultivate, carve out the person who your spouse is in your marriage by recognizing the good or the bad. So if you recognize the bad all the time, so that's what you're speaking, and that is what is being highlighted in the marriage. And that's the shape that you see. But when you celebrate the good and you pronounce the good, you speak on the good, that's the shape that you see. So you are actually cultivating or shaping the person of your spouse within your marriage, the way that you see them and the way that they actually begin to show up in the marriage.
Yeah. And, we spend so much time talking about what's wrong and what needs to change and what needs to be fixed. And I can't remember what the ratio is, but it's like 10 to 1. It takes 10 good things positive to outweigh one negative. Or one negative can come along and erase 10. I can't remember what that ratio is.
I want to say it's 7 to 1.
Okay.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And so it's this thing where you can give a person 7 compliments and highlight these 7 things and say, however, there's this one area that I feel like you need to work on. They're going to walk away and they're going to focus on that one area, that one negative, rather than focusing on those 7 positives.
So just imagine you've been married. Well, I'll just say we've been married for 18 years. It would be 19 years on May 26th.
Yes.
Shout out 19 years.
We're going to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have a Marriage Matters celebration or something.
Okay.
But anyway, what was this? Oh, yeah. So just imagine 19 years of pointing out what's wrong.
Right.
Every day for 19 years. I don't know, you do the math. It's 365 days in a year.
We'll let y'all do the math.
I ain't ashamed.
I was not trying to.
So your teacher used to tell you, like growing up, you need to learn math because you're not going to always have a calculator with
right.
you. You were wrong. So 365 times 19. That's 6,935.
Wow.
So if that's all you heard for 19 years times 7, that means, I did something wrong. 365 times 19, then times that times 7. That means you need 48,545.
Wow, that's a lot.
Compliments to erase that.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's how it's been for our relationship.
Right.
I'm just saying in general, if that's how your relationships have been, you know, you've been married 19 years and it's always pointing out what's wrong or what your spouse didn't do right. Or they could have did this better, or, you know.
Right.
So I'm just saying, look at that ratio. So,
and oftentimes people say, well, they don't give me a reason to celebrate them, or he does so many things wrong that, you know, it's hard for me to celebrate him, you know, and we believe that, you know, we speak those things that be not as though they were. When you speak, you know, into a person, then that's who they want to become. It takes time. It's a process. And of course, we always talk about, we do address the hard things. You know, we do talk about the things that need to be discussed. We're not sweeping things under the rug, but there is an opposite end of the spectrum, and that we also have to recognize what is good. You know, if we are always recognizing in our children what they do bad, what they do wrong or incorrect, that brings their self-esteem down. Does that not still happen to adults?
Yeah, it does. And I think whenever, like you were saying, either side of that spectrum is bad, but I think that whenever you do celebrate your spouse, it makes the hard conversations that much easier, because your spouse knows that, okay, my husband or my wife is not doing this to pull me down. They're always building me up. So I know that, even, you know, and that's the thing, you know, we try to tell our kids this, you know, we correct you because we want you to be better. We correct you because we love you. But it's true, because
it is.
If I really loved you, I'm trying to think, I can't remember if it was you or Bethany, but you were saying something wrong, a word, maybe
incorrectly.
It was saying incorrectly, and I corrected you, or maybe it was Bethany, I can't remember, but I remember, and I remember saying, the conversation was like, you know, why, I can't remember what it was, but I remember saying this: I love you enough to correct you, because I don't want you to go around somebody else and be saying that, and then everybody's like, did you hear what, you know? So it's the same way, you know, so we have to, I think, going back to my point, I think that when you celebrate your spouse, and you're known, your spouse knows that you are for them, and you uplift them, then you can come to them with those hard things and say, here's, I need to talk to you about this. Because even talking to you about the hard stuff and the difficult things, and in the end result is you want your spouse to be better.
Absolutely. And when they know that's the heart that it's coming from, then they will, you know, receive the hard conversations a lot easier. So I wanted to share a quote. It says, when we recognize, honor, and celebrate each other, we're freed up to be the best person and partner we can be. It's up to us to celebrate our spouse and sculpt the best marriage our love can afford. That's from Drs. Les and Leslie Parrott, and they do some phenomenal things in marriage. Just, you know,
our good friends.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and speak that into existence. Yes, less and less. But yeah, I thought that was so powerful. When we recognize, honor, and celebrate each other, we are freed up to be the best person and partner we can be.
Say it again. When
we recognize, honor, and celebrate each other, we're freed up to be the best person and partner we can be. So when I recognize, honor, and celebrate you, I'm freed up to be the best person and partner that I can be.
Yeah. And you know, that kind of brings something else to my mind is, you know, to celebrate our differences. You know, I think when it comes to marriage, we did a podcast about this, about the two because we all talked about a lot about the two becoming one, but
Right.
there's 2 that are becoming one. And I think so many times in marriage, if my spouse doesn't like what I like or think how I think,
Right.
or so I'm learning to celebrate the fact that Tanya's not going to do everything
Right.
the way I'm going to do it. So even in those things, learning to celebrate.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times that's where I think the correction comes from. It's like because they didn't do it the way
Right. I would have done it.
I would have done
Right.
it. Right. So I think even in celebrating the differences, but that's really good. When you recognize and honor each other, I finish it. I can't see it.
When you recognize and honor each other, we are freed up to be the best person and partner we can be.
So I'm freed
Exactly.
to be me,
Yes.
and to be the best that I can be. So
Exactly.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, pretty powerful. And this kind of came from some of my reading on their site as well. They gave 3 tips, and I wanted to share those on the show. The first one is it's worded different. This is put in the Tanya version and not their version. But be aware, take note, and take notice of the positive. When you see something, say something. Where does that come from?
That's like when something's not right.
When you see something, say something. So in your neighborhood, for safety,
I was about to say on our job.
Right, exactly.
With safety and
exactly. Even on our job, if there's something weird happening outside, people standing around, it's like when you see something, say something. And it's the same thing, in your marriage, and even on a positive tip. When you see something, say something. It's just like, babe, thank you so much. You took my car, you filled it up, you washed it, you vacuumed it out. It smells good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The second thing is to celebrate the good stuff. For example, if your spouse comes home and says, babe, I had this project at work, or we had this meeting, I had a presentation, it went so well. My boss said this, and this, and, so to say, oh, honey, that was good. Celebrate, like really if they're excited about it, you get excited about it. Even if they're kind of like, yeah, it went really well, celebrate it, make them excited about it. Even, sometimes the weight loss journey, if I come to you and I say, babe, I lost 3 pounds this week, I want you to, hey, yes, let's rock it out. Yep. Let's rock it out. Celebrate or create a space for your spouse to come to you and to celebrate their winnings. We have to create that atmosphere. We have to say that it's okay for you to celebrate you. Oftentimes when we are engaging with the world outside of our homes, we're not often celebrated. So we want to be able to create a space. I want this to be a safe place for you. I want this to be the place when you come home that you feel celebrated, you feel embraced. People are excited to see you when you walk through the door. You have to create that space for your spouse.
Can I interject?
Yes, absolutely.
So, I know this story is old as I don't know what, but the story of, and this goes both ways, but I'm just going, because I'm a man, I'm using from the man perspective, the story of the man who never gets celebrated at home, and he's doing his best, he's trying, he's never getting celebrated at home, but then there's this lady at work who's always, celebrating, and man, you look nice today. You did such a great job. You have such great leaders. And always compliment. And the rest of that story.
Yes, absolutely. I hear it all the time.
So again, if we have to try to, we can't be everything for our spouse.
Yeah.
We can't. That's only God can.
Only God can do that. Yeah.
But we have to meet the needs that they have.
Yeah.
And one of those needs, like I said earlier, is being celebrated, is being affirmed. And so what you're doing when you celebrate your spouse, you're taking up that space and not leaving it because what you don't want is a spouse who's not used to being complimented. Because like I said, the first time someone comes along with a compliment,
right,
then it's like, oh, okay, well, what's that? But, I want it to be where, if somebody tells Tanya, "Oh, you're beautiful," she could say, "Thank you." My husband tells me that all the time.
And have literally said it.
that's what I'm saying. You don't want, the Bible says we shouldn't leave any room for the devil.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So we have to make sure. And I got one other point.
No, go ahead.
But I want you to go ahead and share your. I see you got.
Well, this was not actually a point. It was it's an idea to share. So you go ahead and make your point.
Okay,
and I'll come back.
I was gonna just talk to that couple who you're saying. I mean, there's nothing to celebrate. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you knew my life and you knew the hell that I'm living in,
yeah,
there's nothing to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
My challenge to you is find something to celebrate.
Yeah.
And if you gotta just start, I mean, maybe you like his eyes. Mm-hmm. You have really nice eyes. If that's all you can find, start there.
Yeah.
I mean, find something to celebrate and watch how that's going to change your spouse's demeanor. I'm telling you, it's going to open up some doors. It's going to, it's going to lead you into it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a overnight fix, but what I'm saying is this could start the journey to your healing in your marriage.
Absolutely.
You've got to find something. That's my challenge to you. Find something to celebrate about your spouse. That's what I want to say.
That's awesome. And when you were talking, I just had the thought that, oftentimes and we've talked to couples where it's just like, well, I tried that and I did this, and when he doesn't do this or she doesn't do that. And so it's just like this tit for tat kind of thing. And we're, well, I'm going to try this week. Well, if he doesn't respond to me, then I'm not doing that no more. It's a process of time. How long has it been the opposite? How long have you not been celebrating? How long have you not been recognizing the good, but focusing on the negative? How long has the hurt been going on? It's going to take that much time. And just like that scenario, the 7-1, it's going to take even longer to undo that. And so my question to couples is always, do you want your marriage? Do you want your marriage to be healthy? Do you want it to grow? Do you want it to get better? Do you want your family? So if your answer is yes, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the time to get it there. And it's going to take time. It's just like gaining a lot of weight. I think a few years ago, I think I probably gained 20 pounds in a year, and it was, I was working, I was studying and doing all the things. And that weight came on. Guess what? I'm still working. And I've graduated, almost 2 years ago. I'm still working to get that weight off. It takes time. It takes time. It takes endurance. It takes consistency. It's the same thing in your marriage. Yes, there will be moments where your emotions may go out of whack and it's just like, okay, I don't feel like celebrating today. Okay. And if you don't in that moment, okay, bring yourself back to it and let's get back on track with celebrating and recognizing the good. Yes, we have to have the hard conversations. Yes, we will never, ever tell anyone to stay in an abusive situation that is not safe. Never, ever, ever. But if that is not your story and there is room and opportunity for you to sit and talk and work through this thing, get in there and work through it. If you need help, seek some outside guidance and counseling. Seek a professional to help you through this process. Do what it is that you have to do to get the marriage that you desire and deserve to have. Mm-hmm.
And I think that what's going to happen is when you start to do this, it's like what's a great example? I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of one right now, but it's like the more you do something, the more you become aware of. It's like, and this maybe not be the greatest example, but I've seen it. I've experienced it. So like, you have you buy a new vehicle, and when you buy that vehicle, all of a sudden, what happens? You start seeing that vehicle everywhere. And it's like, is everybody trying to copy me?
Right.
What is it? You're now more aware of that vehicle.
Absolutely.
Right? So my point is, I challenge you to start to celebrate your spouse, finding things. And what's going to happen is your eyes are going to be open to all of the other things that you need to be celebrating. I think one of the reasons is that whatever you focus on is what your attention is going to be on. You know, so focus on try to focus on the positive. You know,
Right.
and find those things, and the more you find, the more you're going to find.
Exactly. And from the smallest to the greatest things, you know, there are times when I may walk past Glenn in the bathroom, or he may walk past me in the house or what have you, and I'm like, you smell good. You know, pay attention. Let him know you smell. Don't just let that go by like that's no big deal. That's a big deal. You recognize your man smell good. You know, let him know.
Yeah,
you know, and even, you know, he's the person in the house that is that oversees the budget. And so when I notice, man, the savings account's looking kind of nice. I don't know, you know, what are we doing differently? That's awesome. I'm loving that, you know. Recognize it from the smallest to the greatest things. Pay attention to it. Say something. Find it in your heart to say something positive and encouraging, and celebrate your spouse. Yeah. So the third thing I wanted to say, this is more of an idea I actually got from Less and Less website, is to create an awe wall. Or an awe board, AWE, like, you know, you want to be in awe of something. So we do this in our homes. We put pictures up and things like that of the family. Everyone in our home has a vision board. We have a cork board where we put things, report cards and certificates and things like that, where we celebrate the kids. But how about taking the time to capture those moments with your spouse? So that can be tickets to a great show that you went to see, you know, a picture that your spouse may have posted. They were on a business trip, and so maybe they were the presenter, you know, at a conference. Capture those moments, capture those little things, and put them on that board. You know, it can be a quote. Maybe it was a goal that you all had as a couple, as a team, or they had. Put that on that awe board just to remember the things that we are grateful for, the things that we are celebrating, the things that we are recognizing and paying attention to. If dad comes home and he's like, hey, got this great, you know, got this promotion, this is happening, that is happening. Let's write that date down, dad's promotion, you know, and blow it up and put it on the board, because the Bible says, and I'm going to read a scripture in Philippians 4:4, it says, always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Always rejoice. You want to rejoice in your marriage. Rejoice for your marriage. Be grateful. There's nothing like a heart of gratitude. I believe that God blesses us more and abundantly when we are able to show gratitude for the things that he has done for us. So that is what I wanted to talk about today, is celebrate. Yeah. Celebrate your spouse.
And don't just depend on, you know, we've allowed, and I use this word world, I mean, as far as our society, our culture.
The culture, yeah.
To monetize celebration.
Right.
In that Mother's Day. So all this stuff, you know, you heap all this stuff onto mom. It's like, oh, we so appreciate you. One day a year. You know, maybe, so you got Mother's Day, then you got the Father's Day for the men, then you got maybe a birthday.
Right, and Christmas.
And Christmas is really not a celebration as much as it is just well, it should be a celebration of Jesus.
That's what it should be.
That's another podcast. But you got what I'm saying? So we realize, so now we go out and it's Mother's Day and we spend all this money buying flowers and buying all this stuff when you don't have to wait for Mother's Day. Right. You don't have to wait for a birthday. And me personally, I would rather be celebrated a little bit every day. Absolutely. Than a whole lot of once a year. Day. Yeah. That's just me, because to be honest, and I'm not, and Tanya doesn't do this. She celebrates me, but I to me, I'm like, I'm the type of person that's like, I shoot straight. In other words, I don't like you know what I'm saying? If you bringing me all this stuff on Father's Day and you never, it's like, to me, that's fake. And I really, that don't do it for me. You could keep all that, you know, because you don't really mean, you're doing it out of obligation. That it's a Valentine's day to celebrate. Yeah. Valentine's Day. That's another one, you know, and which, I mean, hey, I do. Now, don't get me wrong. I buy stuff, I buy flowers, but my point is, I don't do it only on Valentine's Day. You know, to me, it means a lot more when I come home with flowers and it's just Tuesday.
For no reason at all.
Because I celebrate my
That's
wife.
right.
So find creative ways.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be, like Tanya said, it could just be a compliment.
Yep.
You know, it could just be, you know, buying her favorite candy. And well, what's this about? I just want to let you know I love you and I celebrate you. I appreciate you being in my life. So find some creative ways of just celebrating your spouse.
One another. And I think, you know, one of the things with this pandemic is that people are having to celebrate differently and having to come up with creative ideas of how to celebrate their loved ones and their family members. You know, this thing of being quarantined, you know, probably about 4 or 5 weeks into it, you know, I hadn't seen my mom, we hadn't seen your mom. And I had to go into my office for something and I left there and I said, I'm going to see my mama. And so I literally called her on the phone, drove up to her apartment complex, parked where she could see me, called her on the phone. She came and we literally sat and waved and blew kisses. And it meant so much to not just her, but to me also. And then, you know, another day we drove out to your mom's house and she is literally screaming like we bought her $1 million check. And we didn't have anything to give. We just came to say hi. We love you. We miss y'all. You know, so I think there is value. We are learning some different values throughout this thing. So.
Oh, yeah, that was good. That was good. So celebrate.
Yes, celebrate.
Celebrate.
Rejoice. You know, today's Mother's Day.
Appreciate each other. Yeah.
Show her you love her every day.
Yeah,
you know?
every day. Yes,
that's one thing I do love about, you know, I love a lot of things about my kids, but they're very affectionate, especially Bethany. Bethany is almost 16 and she will literally come and place her entire body weight on you, loving on you. And she, you know, they hug and kiss every night. If we don't come to their rooms, they come to our room to hug and kiss every night, showing, you know, that love and affection. And so that's so appreciated, you know. Saying I love you is a lot. It means a lot. And when it's heartfelt, it means a lot.
Yeah.
So
hopefully you got something out of that. Be creative, celebrate your spouse.
Absolutely.
Don't just point out the negative.
Yeah.
Find, and even like we said, if you don't think you can find stuff, there's something.
Absolutely.
You know, that you could celebrate about your spouse. So this is Glenn and Tanya Coleman reminding you that
your marriage matters. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.